Welcome to this week's Honeymoon Mindset with Kids. We are continuing our conversation of taking off the blinders. What does that mean for us as parents? And how does that help the kids when we take the blinders off? Let's continue our conversation with Kimberly and I as we continue to talk about removing the blinders.
Yes. And if they think they're expected to be perfect, they certainly will not tell you if they mess up.
All right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and they also get to create that feeling that no matter what they do as kids, it's not going to matter because my parents, I'm good in their eyes, I'm perfect.
Right.
So that creates that false sense of security in our kids until something really big happens and the blinders come off, ripped off.
Right. Yep, unfortunately.
Oh. So.
And unfortunately, in this instance, I think the only reason she even knew about it was apparently a staff member overheard the kids fighting and reported it. So she knew, or they knew, like, Mom's going to hear about it probably. We should go home and tell her only what the other kids did.
Right.
Not our part in it. And when I kept trying to tell her, like, yes, my kids did this, and, it wasn't just my kids. Your kids did some threats and yelling and everything and called names as well. Mm-hmm. It kept getting glossed over, like, no acknowledgement for a very long time until the very end of the conversation when it was finally like, okay, it's all the kids. And I'm like, yes, that's all I'm saying. It's all of them.
Right. So, what would you have done, or how do you think it would have gone if you said, well, what did your kids do in this situation? How did your kids react? Asking her those.
Oh, that's a good question. Instead of just saying, like, well, your kids were doing this too, ask her to see if she knew, you mean?
Right, because then because to me then it's like asking, it's like, well, I don't know what my kids did, so why didn't you ask?
Right.
You as an adult, when a cop shows up to a car scene, he's going to talk to 10 different people, and he's going to get 10 different stories, and they have to match up to recreate what happened in the accident.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know if she would have stopped and been like, let me ask them. Or if she just would have been like, my kids already told me what happened and it was all the kids, or, I don't know how she would have reacted. But I think that's a really, really good question to have asked if I had thought of it.
Yeah.
So it would have given her time to pause and be like, do I know how my kids act? Why don't I ask them their side of, like, what they did too?
Right. And then the other thing, like we've always been saying on this show, is we need to listen with our hearts when kids tell us, especially when they feel like they're going to be in trouble. There's already so many emotions and worries and fears going on in a kid's head when they're talking to us about something bad or something that they did, because they're worried about how we're going to react. They're worried about what's going to happen to them or how much trouble they're going to be in.
Definitely.
Listening with the heart, making it as I don't want to say comfortable, but comfortable where they feel comfortable coming to us, even when they're feeling that they know it's going to be okay.
Right.
And they know they're going to get in some sort of trouble because they didn't behave properly, but they're comfortable enough to tell us what happened, the truth and the whole truth, the first time.
Exactly. And one thing that when I did finally say, like, other things have happened, this isn't the first incident, and when I said something specific, she was like, oh, well, my kid wouldn't have done that unless he was provoked. I was like, okay, so again, you're not taking responsibility for the fact that your kid did do something. You're saying it had to have been justified. You have the blinders on and you won't look at the fact that he could have started the situation.
Mm-hmm.
It was all very, oh, my kids are only doing it if they're provoked. Okay.
Yeah.
So those blinders are definitely on, and they're not helping anybody learn and grow from any of the situations.
Yeah.
And like you said, if they're scared, they're not going to come tell you.
No, they're going to tell you what you want to hear.
And the thing is... Oh, sorry. Please finish.
No, I was just saying is they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear.
Definitely.
To make you happy and not upset you either. Because the other thing is kids hold us up on a pedestal like we are.
Mm-hmm.
They look up to us, they learn to us, they want to mimic us as parents, mirror our actions and words like you've said numerous times today.
Mm-hmm.
And
they definitely do not want to disappoint us.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, they're not going to tell us they're not going to say more than they have to. And if there isn't that level of trust and respect there, yeah, they're going to tell us what we want to hear so we don't get upset.
Definitely. And they, like we just said, they don't want to disappoint us. But here's the thing, one thing we have to understand as parents, they are human. They are going to make mistakes.
Oh, right.
And if we don't allow them to make mistakes, we don't allow them to be human without judgment and shame and punishment, they definitely are not going to come tell us because they're going to be disappointed I wasn't perfect.
Right.
Because they're going to mess up. We all do.
And they need that feeling of messing up, like you said, to learn. And, okay, I didn't like this, so I need to change X, Y, Z so it doesn't happen again. It's them learning how to problem solve as well.
Sorry.
I know, you're fine.
We keep talking over each other. I was going to say, I really like that you said that the kid is thinking to themselves, I don't like this.
Yes.
And that's huge. Because we talk about that a lot of like, okay, well, you reacted this way. How did it make you feel? How did you feel when you reacted that way? Did it feel good to throw something? Did it feel good to call somebody a name back? Like, let's think about that.
Yeah.
Because if it didn't make you feel good, you probably don't want to react that way again.
Yeah, thinking back to raising my 5 kids, my oldest is 24.
Okay.
As Beth laughs at me, my wife. All the way down to 17. So 20 years ago, 19 years ago, going through the stuff that you're going through, it's like...
Yes.
No, I remember we had a lot of conversations. How does this make you feel? Why did you do that? How do you make it feel? It creates that natural learning curve. It creates that natural problem-solving skills on how to treat people, how to treat others, how you want to be treated.
Yes.
And punishment becomes very minimal. You're still going to have to discipline your kid. You're still going to have to set boundaries and rules. Kids want that. They desire that.
Definitely.
But it becomes more doable, and it becomes more of a conversation and almost natural, because my first wife, we'd have boundaries, but my kids would have stricter boundaries than what we had, because they held themselves to a little bit higher standard than we put out for them, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So...
I like how you said it becomes more of a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, if you've been talking to your kids all along, you've been accepting that, and acknowledging that they're not perfect. And, we have conversations with our kids about how nobody is perfect. Please give me grace when I mess up, because I do as a parent. Please, I'll give you grace and they realized, like, okay, nobody's perfect. We can talk about it. We can talk about how it made them feel. We can, and it doesn't have to be like, okay, well, I'm punishing you, and there's no conversation to it.
Right.
So nobody learns anything from that. No matter how you choose, if you choose timeouts, if you choose spankings, no matter what you choose, whether, other parents agree with it or not,
right,
there has to be the conversation that goes with it, so that eventually there doesn't have to be the timeouts and everything. It can be like, hey, I know I messed up. I acknowledge what I did wrong. And they hold themselves accountable.
Yeah, eventually our kids, we just had to look at them and they knew they were in trouble. We didn't have to say or do anything. And then they also, you could look at them and it's like, okay, what did you do now? I can see it. It's written all over your face.
Right?
But that goes back to that conversation, like you said, the conversation with your kids and learning them and figuring out who they are so they're comfortable talking to you and they don't feel like they have to hide anything.
I was laughing at you saying you just had to give a look, because I know, like, when I cannot react, which it's not always easy. I mean, especially we live in a tight little space in the RV, and my kids fight with each other sometimes, like all siblings do, and it's hard to listen to it and not react to it. When I can just not react and just watch them and look at them, when they finally catch my eye, they're like, oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I know what I did.
Yeah.
It's funny. But yeah, basically, like, it just comes down to acknowledge that your kids aren't perfect and help them grow from that and learn from their mistakes.
Exactly. And talk about it as much as conversation as possible. And I remember having these conversations. Asking my kids, do you understand what I'm saying? What questions do you have? So then they could ask us questions, so they could talk to us about that. And there's the times where my kids will, well, how did that make you feel? They question us. It's like, well, don't turn that on me. No, it's like, no, it's a valid question, and here's how it feels. So then they get you...
Okay, I think I got a little confused there, James. Why is it bad for your kids to ask you how you felt?
No.
I think I misunderstood the purpose of the question.
Yeah. But it's that creating that conversation, because sometimes I know some of my kids, once in a while, they didn't understand why it was wrong.
Okay.
And they'd ask us, how did that make you feel if I did this? And we'd have to answer the question. It's like, no, I wouldn't like that when you did that. That hurt me, or that made me feel like this. So then they'd learn that, oh, mom and dad wouldn't even like it.
Okay, totally understand you now. I misunderstood the first time.
So they're looking, I guess the kids are looking for more perspective on the situation from the parents' point of view.
Gotcha.
So, and it's also creating that dialogue, that open, honest dialogue of having a candid conversation with your kids.
And that's exactly, like, when I talk about holding your kids responsible and talking with them. I'm not talking about yelling at them, like, oh yeah, I held my kid responsible, I yelled at them, I told them they messed up. I'm definitely talking about having a conversation with them about how they feel, how you feel, how things could have been handled differently. Definitely not talking about, oh, I told my kids, oh yeah, I talked to them, not with them, to them, and I told them how wrong they were and shamed them and blamed them.
Right.
There's a huge difference in those two ways of talking to and with your children.
For sure, yes. Yep, I agree. So, Kimberly, I think we're probably getting towards the end.
Yes, I think we've definitely made our point.
So some of the common themes for me that I've heard is no kid is perfect. Kids want a comfortable, reassured place where they can come and talk to you about stuff. When they don't, they'll start to hide as much as they can because kids look up to parents. They feel like they're heroes or sometimes even gods because you're a parent. And we get to do so much and they don't. And they're learning. They need the conversation of how to treat others the way they want to be because they don't know. Because we come from a genealogy, a natural genealogy of reactiveness. It's in our DNA. It's who we are as people. There's no denying that fact.
Agreed.
And when we have that conversation that's when and how we can start changing that responsiveness.
Yes.
Through listening with our hearts, having a conversation with our kids and not to them so that they can learn and grow to be respectable kids and learn how to have natural problem-solving skills.
There you go.
Holy cow, that was so hard, that last bit.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. It's 100% talking with them, not to them. Making sure they know you're their ally, and that part of being an ally is holding them responsible, not just placating them and telling them they're perfect, or the opposite, telling them, in a shameful way how bad they messed up, but being their ally and talking to them and with them about how they can grow up to not be so reactive, to be respectful, responsible adults. And that takes time.
It does.
Telling them once is not going to change everything. It's a repeated conversation.
Yeah, I had that same thought when you're saying that. It's a continued conversation that never ends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one that should continue throughout adulthood.
Absolutely agree with that. I know as an adult, I still have to watch my reactivity for sure. I think you wrapped it up beautifully.
All right.
Thank you for allowing me to have this topic today.
Of course, it was a great topic. It's a good topic. So it's one that every parent deals with. And I would say every parent does it too. In some aspect of the child's life.
Yeah.
And some parents catch it sooner or see it or realize it. And some don't, unfortunately. So. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this edition of Honeymoon Mindset with Kids. Again, if you have questions or want to reach out to Kimberly, why don't you go ahead and tell them how they can get a hold of you?
Absolutely. You can join my Facebook group called Sunrise Mindsets. I'm on Instagram, also under Sunrise Mindsets. And you could email me at kimberly@sunrisemindsetcoaching.com.
Awesome. Again, and I'm at Passion Life Mentors on Facebook and Instagram. You can check us out there, send us direct messages, and there's links to send us emails and other ways to get hold of us. So,
awesome.
Thank you for listening to Honeymoon Mindset with Kids. Continue listening with your hearts and loving your kids for who they are. Until next time, we'll see you on Honeymoon Mindsets with Kids. Well.